Hey YouTube, it's EvanMagician34, and this is my long-awaited fourth in the series of 7 Earthbound Immortal decks. And this one is based off of the green one, Earthbound Immortal Ccarayhua. Sorry, these names are kind of a little hard to pronounce. This is the 2800 point reptile guy who, whenever he's destroyed by any effect but his own, he destroys every card on the field. And he's got all the other usual Earthbound Immortal effects. He attacks directly, people can't attack him, and so on and so forth. So we're running 3 of him, we know that. And we've taken kind of a reptile spin to this deck. The deck runs all reptiles. This is a casual deck, but actually having played it and tested around with it, I actually think there are some possibilities for this deck to maybe spawn something a little more competitive in the future. So anyway, be looking for maybe another reptile deck at some point that might actually be able to take a local or something. But anyway, you also run 3 copies of Vennominaga, the king of poisonous snakes. And you should know what he does, and if not, look him up on Yu-Gi-Oh! Wiki. But basically, 500 attack and defense for every reptile in the grave, and you can turn him into this card, which you only run 1 of because you only really need 1 of it, and that's good because it's actually kind of expensive and hard to get. But basically, if you summon this thing and you have any decent number of reptiles in your grave, you should win. In fact, anybody with any sense at all will scoop unless they have Volcanic Queen or Lava Golem in their deck. Like actually in the main board. This is an astounding card. Anyway, and most of the rest of the reptile stuff comes from Reptiliannes. 3 copies of Reptilian Garden. This guy's really awesome. 2000 defense is pretty good, and anytime he's destroyed anyway, he searches your deck for any reptilian monster of any level or anything. So that's actually pretty good for a searcher. We also run 3 copies of Reptiliannaga. It doesn't die in combat, and anything that has a fight with it after the battle phase turns to 0 attack. So that's actually pretty awesome. Downside is if it's face up at the end of your turn, it'll change itself to attack mode, and since it's a 0/0, that can be a serious liability. But it actually has some really cool combos you can use it for. More on that in a second. We're also running 3 Reptilian Silo, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's 1800 attack, and it acts like a Goyo Guardian anytime it kills something that's got 0 attack. So there is actually a cool combo for this card deeper down in the deck. It's one of my cool surprises. So we'll get to that in a second. It's also pretty much the biggest non-tribute reptilian. We're running 1 copy of Reptilian Gorgon, basically just so you can have another reptilian in the deck. She's a 14/14 level 3. If she attacks something, it goes to 0 attack and can't change its position. The reptilian kind of effect. But since she's probably going to die in the process, it's not necessarily a very alluring effect. We run 1 copy of Reptilian Medusa. She's a 1 tribute who can pitch a card to do the reptile turn you to stone effect once per turn. So basically you can search her off guard if you want her, and if not, hopefully you don't just top deck her at a bad time. We're also running 1 copy of Reptilian Voski. She's really awesome. The only way she can come into play is specialing onto the field by tributing any 2 monsters with 0 attack. So basically if they hit your Naga, drop to 0, and you enter your turn, you can sack their monster in your Naga, which would have been something they could have attacked into later. Summon this 2600 point thing, blow up one of their monsters once per turn, and you have a 2600 point beat stick. So pretty good card, good for searching with Gardener too. That's all the monsters. Our field spell of choice is Magical Citadel of Endymion, basically because it's you can easily protect it. You run a decent number of spells in this deck. Play the Citadel, play another spell behind it, you got a counter on it. Now when Ccarayhua blows up the field with his effect because he got destroyed, your Citadel will stay, so you'll still have a field spell for later. And don't worry, even if they're not going to destroy your lizard, which they probably won't, they'll try to remove him some other way, you have ways to destroy him to keep them from removing him or something like that. So anyway, 3 copies of Citadel. Trunade's really the only way they can hurt it right now for the most part. 1 copy of Dark Hole. 1 copy of Giant Trunade, because it's nice to clear the way, replay your field spell, and play your Earthbound Immortal or something like that. So it is good, despite the fact that it gets rid of your field spell temporarily. You can just replay it. 2 copies of MST to help protect you from things like Warning, which you really don't like in this deck. 1 copy of Monster Reborn. And 2 copies of Reptilian Spawn. This is an awesome card. Just remove a reptilian in your grave and get 2 0/0 tokens, Earth Attribute. No other restrictions. You can tribute summon, you can special summon, you can do anything else the same turn. It's actually a really good card. And what's cool is you can play this and then just instantly summon Vennominaga or Ccarayhua right off those 2 tokens. So definitely a good card to have in hand. And also you can play this and then summon Voski because you can still tribute your 2/0/0 tokens to get her on the field. So lots of good plays off of that. Another one, Viper's Rebirth. You have to have nothing but reptiles in your grave to use it. But when you activate it, it searches your grave for any non-tuner monster you want and special summons it. And then it's destroyed at the end of the turn. So what's cool about that is you can use this to bring back Ccarayhua when you get your field spell out, obviously. This will even put a counter on your field spell. Attack for 28, and then at the end of the turn, it's destroyed by the effect of Rebirth. And then Ccarayhua blows up the field up, but you keep your field spell because you played a spell. So pretty cool little trick there. And you can also use this to bring back Vennominaga, and when Vennominaga is destroyed, you can activate your neat little Rise of the Snake Deity trap and bring out Vennominaga at the end of your turn, which is, like I say, almost always its game. So, cool tricks there. And you also run one copy of Snake Rain. It's pitch a card and then send 4 reptiles from your deck to the grave. We're not really focusing on Vennominaga in this deck, but this card's very helpful to power it out, and it can send Ccarayhua and Vennominaga to your grave. Just don't send Vennominaga, because Rise of the Snake Deity will only get it from your hand or deck. So never send Vennominaga with this. But anyway, just want a copy of that. We're running 3 copies of this card. It's called Offering to the Snake Deity. It's what it says is it destroys 1 reptile you control and 2 cards your opponent controls. So it's essentially like Icarus attack. But what's kind of neat about it is if it gets negated, you didn't lose your reptile. But basically you can use this to kill Vennominaga, as the card kind of implies, or you can use it to kill Ccarayhua to keep them from like Kaising it or something like that, or from bottom-hilsing it, or whatever. It's also just good to clear away back rows, blow up their monsters. It's a very good card. Part of what makes this deck really good. I'm going to go ahead and show you. Yes, we run 2 copies of Rise of the Snake Deity. We're not really focusing on it, and it's kind of hard to pull off, and it's only really good to summon the deity when you got lots of reptiles in your grave. So really we're only running 2. That's all you really need. And last but certainly not least, we're running 3 copies of Fairy Box. This is an awesome trap. It's part of why Sila is so good at 3. You flip it, it's a continuous trap. Anytime your opponent attacks you, you toss a coin. If you call it right, their attack becomes 0 until the end of that attack. So what's awesome about that is they attack your Sila, you flip this, their attack goes to 0. They take 1800 off of that, and then you steal their monster. Having this out is a great way to deter your opponents from attacking. You can flip it in combination with Reptilianne Gardener, dealing 2000 that way. Very good. This card can buy you extra time, all kinds of things. It's cool. It does require a 500 life point maintenance cost during your standby phases, or else it destroys itself. But realistically, the amount of life points this will probably end up saving you in the long run, and keeping your monsters alive is well worth that 500 every turn. So, anyway, that's the deck. I'm not including an extra deck, basically because, as you may have noticed, there are no tuners. And ordinarily, I'd still include an extra deck full of like one-ofs of all sorts of stuff. But you have to really think hard about that, because the second you like summon a tuner out of your opponent's grave with Monster Reborn and sync up, you're almost certainly not going to get a reptile, because virtually every synchro monster, with very few exceptions, aren't reptiles. So as soon as it dies, you give yourself dead top decks with Viper's Rebirth, which is too crucial a card for this deck to ignore. Realistically, there are other targets for it. You can include an extra deck if you want. I mean, that's fine. If you do include an extra deck, just kind of include one each of the staples. Include Formula Synchron too, because you can bring back a 1-star tuner and sync it with one of your tokens or something like that, or Naga. Those are okay plays. But I mean, we don't run aliens, so those synchros are out. And then Reptilianne Hydra is really kind of really not a very good card. If you want to try for that, be my guest. But really, this deck just runs the way it is. You don't need an extra deck. You can fill your extra deck up with copies of Gladiator Beast, Ccarayhua, and Power Tool Dragons for all I care. So, anyway, Earthbound Immortal Ccarayhua deck. And until next time, rate, comment, subscribe, enjoy, and be sure to check out my channel for some cool videos and my 1,000 subscriber contest before April 23rd. Peace.